Before I begin, I want to tell you that making videos like this is not something I do as a profession, so please bear with the crudeness of the effort and my reading from a prepared statement. What I'm going to tell you is going to seem preposterous and unbelievable. It may be very hard for you to believe that our government and the largest defense contractor in the world is capable of such alarming incompetence and can make ethical compromises as glaring as what I am going to describe. Having said that, I assure you that everything I'm stating here is accurate. I have resorted to creating this video because I have exhausted every avenue I can think of, and in spite of the negative effects it has had or will have on me and my family, I feel very strongly that I need to take this step in order to resolve these issues. The purpose of this video is to ask for your assistance in helping me resolve several serious safety and security issues relating to Homeland Security, specifically the U.S. Coast Guard. Several years ago, I was Lockheed Martin C4ISR System Engineering Lead for the 123 project on the Deepwater Program. The purpose of this effort was to upgrade the Coast Guard's fleet of 110-foot patrol boats to not only lengthen their serviceable life, but to add space onto the rear of the boat to accommodate a Zodiac rescue boat, and to install modern command control, communication, computer, information, and surveillance systems on these boats to prepare them for a post-9/11 world. My responsibilities on this effort were to ensure the designs we created fulfilled requirements and to complete the installation and delivery of the first boat. During my tenure on this project, several critical safety and security problems arose. These issues included the camera surveillance system. We had a requirement to provide a camera surveillance system for the boats. The purpose of this system was to permit the Coast Guard to monitor these boats while in a Coast Guard port, without having to have a watchstander on board. The main purpose of the system is to ensure that no one can access or board the boats without being seen. The implementation Lockheed Martin proposed, and that was finally accepted by the U.S. Coast Guard, left two extremely large blind spots leading directly to the pilot house or the bridge of the ship. These blind spots are over 10 feet wide on the deck and extend to hundreds of feet wide at the horizon. While this problem could have been easily remedied by simply providing another camera to fill the blind spots, Lockheed Martin and the U.S. Coast Guard decided to deliver these boats without the extra camera. This situation leaves the boats and the crew in a position where someone could access the boat without being seen. While it is possible to augment the cameras with a watchstander, that situation puts the Coast Guard in the exact position they originally tried to avoid, with the additional expense of a system that does not meet their needs. The next issue: environmental survivability of the equipment. Just prior to the installation of the systems on the ship, we were finally provided the environmental requirements for the system. One of these requirements called for the equipment mounted on the outside of the boat to survive temperatures from -40 to 125 degrees. Given the Coast Guard performs missions from the coast of Alaska to the Persian Gulf, I am sure you can see where this requirement would be important. When I first became aware of these requirements, I immediately asked the engineering team to look into whether or not the equipment we had already purchased met the requirement. The very first device we looked into was the FLIR, or forward-looking infrared. This system is crucial for navigation and being able to see when the outside conditions prohibit doing so visually, like in a fog or storms. We found out the FLIR system would not survive temperatures below -5. When I informed the management about this issue, they immediately directed me and my team to stop looking into the rest of the equipment to see if they were compatible. As a result, I believe the majority of the equipment installed on these boats does not meet the environmental needs of the U.S. Coast Guard. This situation puts the crew and the general public at risk. The next issue: secure communications. The primary means of communications of the U.S. Coast Guard utilizes, especially with other government organizations such as the U.S. Navy, FBI, or DEA, is secure and classified. As such, secure communications have certain requirements levied on them that ensure no one can eavesdrop on our classified communications. Many of these requirements are called out as Tempest standards. One of the basic requirements under this umbrella specifies that shielded cables are to be used in these systems. Shielded cable is used to ensure that small electrical signals do not radiate into the atmosphere, as they would using non-shielded cables. Lockheed Martin installed and the U.S. Coast Guard accepted these boats with non-shielded cables installed. In fact, we removed old shielded cables and purposely installed the non-shielded versions in their place. In order to ensure these systems are acceptable, they have to pass 2 government tests. One is a visual test and one instrumented, or where they use test equipment. The visual test failed in many areas. One of the many reasons the test failed was due to the absence of shielded cables. There were more than 4 dozen of these cables on each boat. Just after I was removed from the program, the government passed the instrumented test. I believe this test was not properly run, or if it was, the results were purposely falsified. This situation puts the majority of our government secure communications at risk, as the Coast Guard has the requirement to communicate with the Department of Defense, the FBI, the DEA, and other government organizations. That means that all of these systems need to be compatible so these organizations can communicate. Therefore, it is probable that all of these communications have been and are being compromised or listened to every day. While there are more problems with the boats than these, and much more information to present, I am not doing so now in order to keep this video as short and succinct as possible. What have I done to try to remedy these issues? I have spent 2 years enduring 3 Lockheed Martin ethics investigations, engineering management reviews, quality reviews, program management reviews, and have worked my way up the chain to Lockheed Martin corporate legal, to the CEO, Bob Stevens, and to the board of directors. While some have told me privately I'm doing the right thing and agree with some of my positions, the official Lockheed Martin response has been that all of my allegations are baseless. As such, I secured the support of the Inspector General's Office of the Department of Homeland Security. They have been investigating these issues for 6 months now. While they have informed me that all of my allegations have merit, they are unable to proceed with the investigation because of lack of cooperation from the U.S. Coast Guard. After being informed of this, I contacted Representative Peter King's office. As he is the chairman of the Homeland Security Oversight Committee, I figured he would be able to help. While his office has contacted me and says the Inspector General's office informed them that my allegations had merit and looked and appeared to be accurate, they said they would be monitoring the situation, but would not honor my request for them to talk to the U.S. Coast Guard and insist that they start cooperating with the IG. So where does this leave us? The boats have been in service for over a year. While they are in the Gulf of Mexico, where the temperatures are not at the extremes, they could be sent anywhere in the world at any time to perform their missions. As for the secure communication problems, I believe we have already compromised the nation's security in these areas. Those who we do not want listening to us are listening and doing so every day. As for the camera systems, I would hope that the U.S. Coast Guard is monitoring these boats with people and not relying on those cameras. Even if they choose to utilize a watch scanner to monitor the boat, the expense to the taxpayer providing a system for which they cannot utilize as intended is significant. I have talked to various members of the U.S. Coast Guard, Department of Homeland Security, the GAO, the U.S. Navy, the NSA, and other organizations about these issues, and have requested that, at the very least, until the investigation is completed, that the day-to-day operations of these boats is modified so that none of these problems that are or could result from these issues occur or are perpetuated. No one has honored that request. As I stated, I made the U.S. Coast Guard and Lockheed Martin aware of all these issues, as well as several others 3 years ago. These issues were made known to them several months before the installation began on the first boat. Their decision was to press forward and meet cost and schedule demands and not remedy any of these issues. And worst of all, they made the conscious decision to carry these mistakes out on all of the patrol boats. I am fully aware that to those who understand the technical aspects of what I am describing, my allegations seem preposterous. I am also aware that it seems ludicrous that Lockheed Martin and the U.S. Coast Guard would do such a reckless, dangerous, incompetent, and irresponsible thing. In spite of that, I tell you it is true and can be easily proven. I believe the reason that Lockheed Martin and the U.S. Coast Guard did not fix these boats was that doing so would alert the community to their incompetence and weak ethical and moral fiber, thereby calling the entire Deepwater project, which is worth billions of dollars, into risk and call every decision they have made into question. People's careers are at stake here. Since the program leverages its design to be common on as many ships or aircraft as possible, these mistakes are probably being pushed forward as we speak onto other ships or aircraft currently in the planning, design, or installation phases. In closing, I ask for those who are in a position to help me to please do so. I have not provided my name here so I can avoid as little aggravation to my family as possible. I have provided my email contact information on YouTube. I am sure that anyone who is interested in helping me has the resources to be able to find out who I am.